All right, so I'm sorry if it annoys you, but I'm going to keep this little box down here because I just gave this entire lecture and exited out of the screen and realized that I was not recording. So I'm a little salty about it, but I'm just going to get over it, and hopefully this will be an even better lecture to help you understand India and Pakistan. All right, so as advertised in your lesson yesterday, I'm going to spend today talking about India and Pakistan. Yesterday, you should have reviewed China versus Japan, communism versus democracy. I didn't get any emails about technological issues, so I'm going to assume it went swimmingly and that it just reaffirmed your understanding of the relationship between those two countries and how different the two countries turned out post World War II. If you finished it up and you're confused or you need clarification on something, hop into my office hours today, Tuesday 1 to 2 and Thursday 1 to 2, and I'll help you. I would love to help you make sure you understand China and Japan. Same goes for today, India and Pakistan. So yeah, let's get to it. India is this large area, kind of roughly looks like a diamond. Pakistan is to the west. Modern Bangladesh is to the east, and that even the creation of these countries is going to be a big part of the conversation we have today. So, enduring understanding wise, the question that you're answering regarding Pakistan and India is what are the effects of interregional conflicts between these two countries? And interregional just means within the region, and the region is Asia. So don't get caught up on that word. Just tell me what's a conflict that's happened between Pakistan and India, and what are three effects. So when you're organizing this one, you write your thesis, you identify your conflict. So, what conflict are you going to talk about between Pakistan and India? There's a couple to choose from. And then, what are three effects of that conflict? So, those are your three examples that need analysis. All right. Now, I am about to do Hinduism and Buddhism in like 2 or 3 minutes, which is wrong. I have guilt about it. In back in the real world, in class, we would talk about this for days. But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna shorten it and talk through it as quickly as I can, and probably make it you more confused. But what a great opportunity for you to go do a little bit of your own research and a little of your own study. Um, on religions that are very, 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 very different than what we've talked about. We talked about Christianity. We talked about the Muslim religion, Islam. We talked about Judaism. Hinduism and Buddhism are nothing like them for so many reasons. So, the biggest reason is polytheism, which you see at the top. Poly meaning many, theist meaning of God. So, many gods. Um, there are millions, millions of Hindu gods. There's not like a book that you can pick up that like identifies every single Hindu god. Um, though I bet there are like encyclopedias that name off a lot of them. But there are so many gods in this religion, and I mean that's what polytheism is, many gods. It is the major religion of India. Kind of like if you think of Iran, you think of Islam, you should think of Hinduism when you think of India. There are minority religions, they're going to be a part of our story today, but the majority of Indians identify as Hindu. Um, Again, this is like the nutshell version. Reincarnation is a really important concept in Hinduism. In a nutshell, reincarnation means you are born, you live, you die, and then you come back to life. And the way you come back to life is dependent on the life you led before. And all life is included. You can be reincarnated as a piece of grass. You can be reincarnated as a cow. You can be reincarnated as a poor person. You can be reincarnated as a prince. And the basis of your reincarnation is the life you led. If you are a good person, you move up. If you're a bad person, you move down. And this idea of moving up and moving down is a really important part of India's history because it develops the caste system, CASTE. Caste is roughly equivalent to like a class, like a middle class, rich, poor. Maybe the best thing to compare it to would be French Revolution, where we had the first estate, the second estate, and the third estate. In India, your birth your birth status and the job your family has and gives to you for a long time dictated your status. And they believed you got this job, this birth, this family based off of your life before. And where this becomes like problematic in terms of human rights is one of the classes was the untouchables. And these people do sanitation work. They clean the streets. They deal with like sewage. They deal with their really, really, really filthy river that a lot of the bodies of dead Hindus go into. And the untouchables are if you really messed up. Like if you really messed up in a previous life, you're reborn as an untouchable. So that's a basic tenet of Indian religion that's going to come into play in this lecture. The idea of reincarnation is that you're going to go through life and learn and learn and learn, and eventually you're going to get it right. And this is going to be nirvana, where you've reached a perfect place, a place of enlightenment. And it's like very roughly equivalent to the Christian heaven. All right, now also a short, butchered version Buddhism. So, also a incredibly important religion in Asia. Hinduism and Buddhism are like Asian trademarks. Like when we think of like Western philosophy versus Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy is influenced by Europe and Christianity, and Eastern Eastern thinking is influenced by Hinduism and Buddhism. So Siddhartha Gautama is actually the Buddha, the man in the back of this picture, and he has such an interesting story. Like there's this great documentary. He was a prince. He was very wealthy, and he went to pray to receive enlightenment, and he realized that the only way to like live a good life was by being poor and causing no harm and let life was suffering and to embrace those. So it's like a deviant of Hinduism. Like they believe in a lot of the Hindu teachings if you're Buddhist, but if you're Buddhist, you don't believe in the Hindu gods. You don't believe in gods. You believe in Four Noble Truths and this Eightfold Path. So these are kind of like, I don't know, kind of like the 10 Commandments in Christianity. They're like these rules that if you follow them, you can achieve enlightenment. And the best way to achieve enlightenment is to live a peaceful, moral life of poverty. Like if you're a Buddhist, you don't have an iPhone. If you're like a devout Buddhist, like you reject material possessions. All right, again, absolutely butchered, but gives you a decent start for a background. Okay, so India and Pakistan. So this area of Eastern Asia, okay, what we now know as Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, was all ruled by the British, like, the majority of the world before World War II. Britain had gone off and did their conquering thing in India. And post World War II, there was an independence movement. And we should be pretty familiar with independence movements. My gosh, we've talked about independence movements the entire second semester. This is India's. So post World War II, with the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, which is probably a name you've heard, as influential and famous as Nelson Mandela, as Martin Luther King Jr., except for like both of those people were actually influenced by Gandhi, like Mother Teresa, like he is the father of peaceful protesting. He has a beautiful story that I encourage you to look into that I'm not going to talk about because Gosh darn it, I'm going to stay under a reasonable time. So he leads this movement called Quit India, which insists on complete separation between Britain and India. Like no tied diplomacy, no tied politics, no tied societally or economically, completely cutting ties. Now, Britain, in like very Britain style, deems this as a rebellion, and Gandhi and 60,000 of his followers are actually arrested and jailed. Meanwhile, as Quit India gains more steam, Muslim Indians, because remember, the majority of Indians are Hindu, and Gandhi's Hindu, and his followers are Hindu. But there is a sect of Muslim Indians who want their own state. If they're going to break off from Britain, they don't want to be in this Hindu-controlled region. This Muslim Indian movement will become Pakistan. So there's a lot of bloodshed, mostly Muslim. And 1947, 2 years after World War II, we get the creation of India and Pakistan. Now, when we look at this map, it's going to look funky because Pakistan is split in half and it's on either side of India. So like here's India, and this is what we know is like largely modern day India. And then over in the left side, which is also part of the Middle East, we have West Pakistan. And then over here on the right, we have East Pakistan. And we see that this is largely Hindu, and both of these regions are largely Muslim. Now, it's not over. East Pakistan doesn't want to be controlled by West Pakistan, and they actually declare war, and India backs them. India backs East Pakistan, and East Pakistan wins and rebrands and is modern day Bangladesh. Okay, so a large part of the struggle is just like actual creation of countries. And Bangladesh is primarily Hindu. Like there's still a Muslim population, but now we get more of this split that we're familiar with today, where west of India is Muslim and India east is largely Hindu or Buddhist or Sikh. Okay. This is a biography on Gandhi, if you're interested in watching it. He, sadly, as many great leaders have been in our history, was assassinated within 6 months of India gaining independence. He was killed by a Hindu, which is interesting because he was Hindu, but the assassin who killed Gandhi thought that Gandhi was too tolerant on Muslims, that he was too peaceful. So he handled that by killing one of the greatest leaders in modern history. So that's there if you want to take a look at that. All right, so Gandhi's dead, and India shifts into a semi-democracy, and they elect Nehru, and Nehru creates a constitution which extends voting and office holding rights to women. And, as mentioned earlier, the caste system and the untouchable class is technically no longer government backed, even though it does still impact India's society today. It's just not legal. Okay, so this is going to be confusing, but Gandhi, not this Gandhi. This Gandhi's dead. Okay, he's dead. This is Nehru's daughter. Okay, Indira Nehru Gandhi. She is appointed prime minister, but unfortunately, she's going to go the way of Gandhi, and she is also going to get assassinated. So Gandhi, Nehru's daughter, there's a conflict with the Sikhs, who are a religious minority in India, and she storms the base, and upon storming the Sikh holy place, which is this gold building on the right, 2 of her bodyguards mutiny and they kill her. They assassinate Gandhi. So a lot of interesting assassinations in the development of modern India as they try to create themselves as their own independent country. Um, Meanwhile, the Cold War is raging. The US and the Soviet Union, capitalism versus communism. And India does this really like diplomatic hopscotch of not taking sides. They don't side with the US, they don't side with the Soviet Union. They are able to stay relatively friendly with both, though. There are points where they aren't super friendly. And this gets us to the last piece I want to talk about with India and Pakistan. The modern conflict over Kashmir. And this is like a tale as old as time, two countries fighting over land. Now, let's take a look. So this is like zoomed out, this is zoomed in. Pakistan on our left, India on our right. This blue area is Kashmir. And there's this like line down the middle, very like North South Korea, and the upper part is controlled by Pakistan and the lower part is controlled by India, and this area is completely in conflict. Now, this is the video you were assigned. If you need to review the conflict in Kashmir, I'm not going to lecture on it explicitly, but I do encourage you, if you're not super confident on Kashmir and some of your answers weren't super confident, I recommend rehashing this and coming and talking to me about it during office hours. All right, this is my last slide. Despite India accomplishing independence, accomplishing a mixed economy, accomplishing a lot, they still struggle economically. They were able to get into like textiles and food and steel, but no matter how much they did in terms of farming and food and textile and steel, they can't keep up with their population. This is a problem across Asia, an issue of population and the country not being able to keep up with the basic needs of what the population of the country demands. So this map on the right is just showing you how low the average median household income and median per capita income is. I mean, in the 80s annual, so yearly, the average yearly income in India was $300. Like that sort of poverty, I don't think a lot of us can even comprehend. I haven't been to India, but even like modern day India, I've had good friends who have gone, and I'm fortunate to have friends who are pretty well traveled, and they've expressed you have not seen poverty until you see the depths of poverty in India. And a film that comes to mind if like you're interested in knowing more about this is Slumdog Millionaire, which shows the slums of India in a very powerful and just it's a great movie way. But India to this day, though they have made so much progress as far as being a democracy, they've made a lot of progress technologically. They put out some of the brightest minds and scholars in the world. They still are struggling as a country to get to cover the basic needs of their people because they just have such an enormous population. All right. This thing's still going. I probably would have cried if it wasn't. I am done. I am available Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 to 2. Your test is on Friday. Make good choices, and I will talk to you later.